Sometimes the world feels heavy. Sometimes the mind speaks too loudly. And in the middle of all that noise, we forget to listen to what truly matters. Today, you will hear stories, simple ones, but each of them holds a key. Every metaphor is a door, and every door leads inward. Take a deep breath. Be still. Let the stories find you. The house that echoed the heart. There was once a house standing alone on the edge of a mountain, so quiet, so still, that people said even the wind softened its voice when passing by. It wasn't large, nor beautiful. No one knew who built it, or why it was there. But everyone knew one thing. The house had a strange ability. It echoed the heart of anyone who entered it. Not their footsteps, not their voice, their heart. People traveled long paths just to test it. Pilgrims, wanderers, skeptics. The bridge that appeared only with trust. There was a village surrounded by cliffs, so vast and so deep that even the bravest travelers refused to go near the edge. The villagers lived their whole lives on one side of the canyon, never crossing, never exploring, never wondering too loudly about the other side. But there was an old legend, a quiet one, passed down in whispers rather than stories. They said there was a bridge, an invisible bridge, that connected their land to the unknown. The rumor went like this: the bridge appears only for those who trust enough to walk toward what they cannot see. Most people laughed at the idea, others feared it, and some simply dismissed it as a fairy tale told to restless children. But there was one girl who couldn't stop thinking about it. Her name was Lyra. Lyra was young, curious, and beautifully stubborn. She loved the edge of the canyon, not because she wanted to jump, but because it made her feel honest. Reminded her of how small she was and how wide the world could be. Every morning, she walked to the same cliff and wondered what existed beyond the empty air. One day, after a long moment of silence, she whispered to herself, "I don't want to live on only one side of my fear." And so she decided. She would test the legend. She would search for the bridge, or create it with her courage. When the villagers saw her heading to the cliff, they shouted, "Stop! You'll fall. There is nothing there." But Lyra only turned back and said softly, "Maybe you never saw the bridge because you never believed enough to look." The sky was pale that morning, the air cold and sharp. The canyon below stretched endlessly, a sea of silence waiting for anyone who dared to challenge it. Lyra stood at the edge. Her heart pounded. Her hands trembled. Courage does not remove fear. It simply chooses to walk alongside it. She lifted her foot, held her breath, and stepped forward. For a fraction of a second, she felt the terrifying weight of nothing beneath her, the drop, the emptiness, the unknown. But then, solidness, a texture under her shoe, something that shouldn't have existed, yet did. A stone appeared, glowing faintly under her foot, not because the bridge had been waiting for her, but because her step had created it. She took another step, and another, each one slow, quiet, uncertain, and yet brave enough to continue. The villagers watched in disbelief as a path formed out of nothing, stone by stone, breath by breath. Halfway across, Lyra stopped. She looked at the sky, the canyon, the trembling air around her. She realized something. The bridge did not appear before her courage. It appeared because of it. When she finally reached the other side, she found no treasure waiting for her, no applause, no miracle, just a field of tall grass swaying gently in the wind, calm, quiet, endless. But the peace she felt, the expansion in her chest, the sense of possibility, was worth more than any gold she could have found. She had crossed her fear, and the world had grown. Later, when the villagers asked her what she found on the other side, Lyra simply smiled and said, "Enough space to become who I really am." Moral: most paths in life are invisible until we take the first step. The bridge does not appear before trust. Trust is what builds the bridge. The watchmaker who repaired minds. In a quiet town that always seemed a little behind the rest of the world, there lived an old watchmaker named Elion. His tiny shop sat between two larger buildings, so small and narrow that people often walked past it without noticing. But those who did notice, those who stepped inside, always said the same strange thing. "I came for my broken watch, but somehow I feel like I was repaired instead." Elion never advertised this. He never claimed to fix minds. He simply listened to clocks, to gears, to people. His shop smelled of warm metal and old wood. Hundreds of clocks hung on the walls, some grand and tall, some tiny and delicate, each ticking at its own rhythm, some fast, some slow, some steady, some hesitant. When outsiders entered, they often felt overwhelmed by all the ticking. But Elion would smile and say, "Do not fear the noise. Every clock is honest. It ticks exactly how it feels." One cold morning, a young man rushed into the shop. He looked exhausted, eyes dark, shoulders tense, hands shaking slightly. "My watch stopped," he said, but his voice carried a truth deeper than the words. Elion glanced at him, not at his clothes or his posture, but at his pace, the restless way he breathed, the pressure in his stance, the way he seemed to exist half a second ahead of himself. He gestured for the young man to sit. "What troubles you more?" Elion asked. "The watch, or the fact that you can't keep up with time anymore?" The young man sighed, a sound full of frustration. "It's the world," he said. "It's moving too fast. Everyone seems ahead of me. I'm always behind. I can't match their pace. I can't even match my own." Elion didn't answer immediately. Instead, he placed the broken watch on his table, opened its back, and let the tiny gears catch the light. Then, pointing at the delicate mechanism, he said softly, "Look here. Even in a single watch, every gear moves at a different speed. Some spin quickly, some move slowly, some hardly move at all. If they all tried to move at the same pace, the watch would break. The young man watched the gears turning, each one with its own rhythm, its own purpose. Elian continued, "Life is not a race, but even if it were, you are not meant to run it with someone else's legs." The young man stared at the floor. "I just don't know how to find my rhythm anymore." Elian smiled kindly, the kind of smile that felt like a warm blanket. "You don't find your rhythm," he said. "You rediscover it. It's already there. But it hides when you spend your days comparing yourself to every clock around you." He handed the young man his repaired watch. It ticked softly, slowly, steadily. "Listen," Elian said. "Not to the world, not to others, to this, to the pace that feels like you." The young man closed his eyes. For the first time in a long time, he felt time move gently instead of aggressively, like a river flowing naturally, not like a storm dragging him forward. He breathed deeply, deeply enough to feel the gears inside himself shift. When he opened his eyes, Elian was already cleaning his tools as if repairing lost time were the most ordinary thing in the world. "Thank you," the young man whispered. Elian nodded. "Remember," he said, "life doesn't require speed. It requires alignment." Morale: when you stop trying to match the pace of others, your true rhythm finally has space to return. And once it does, everything in your life begins to tick in harmony again. The tree that grew inward. There was a forest so dense and ancient that it carried the quiet weight of centuries. Its trees were tall, proud, and endlessly reaching, stretching their branches upward as if trying to touch the sky itself. They competed silently, measuring greatness by height, by width, by how close they could get to the sun. All except one. At the center of the forest stood a strange, unassuming tree. It was not tall. It was not wide. It was not impressive in any visible way. While the others grew upward, this tree grew inward. Its roots twisted deep into the earth, layer after layer, finding hidden pockets of water, old minerals, and forgotten paths beneath the soil. The other trees mocked it. "You'll never be tall," they said. "You'll never touch the sky. You'll never be seen." But the inward growing tree remained quiet, not out of weakness, but out of wisdom. It knew something the others had forgotten. What is seen by the world is rarely what keeps you standing. Seasons passed. Spring colored the forest in vibrant greens. Summer brought warm winds and dancing shadows. Autumn painted everything gold. Winter stripped the branches bare. The tall trees battled the seasons. They had to. The higher they climbed, the more the storms reached them. But the inward growing tree simply endured. Still, silent, certain. It listened to the earth. It felt the deep tremors. It anchored itself to stones older than memory. Then one year, a storm unlike any the forest had ever seen rolled across the land. The sky cracked with lightning. The wind howled, tearing at the canopy. Branches snapped, trunks bent, roots strained against the violent pull of the storm. The tall trees, those who reached for the sky without ever strengthening their foundation, began to fall. One by one, great giants crashed to the ground, ripped from the soil, their roots shallow despite their enormous size. But in the center of the destruction, the inward-growing tree stood firm. The wind pushed it, but it did not move. The storm screamed at it, but it did not bow. Its roots, deep, woven, unshakable, held it in place when everything around it collapsed. When morning came, the forest was silent. Broken trunks lay scattered across the ground. Branches were torn, leaves were shredded, but there, untouched, stood the tree that had grown inward. For the first time, the forest saw its strength, not flashy, not obvious, but undeniable. Animals gathered around it, birds rested on its branches. Even the wind seemed to soften as it passed. The tree did not celebrate its survival. It did not boast. It simply continued doing what it always had, growing quietly, deepening its roots, strengthening its foundation, one day at a time. Moral: growing outward may impress the world, but growing inward makes you unshakable. True strength is built where no one can see, in the roots, in the silence, deep within. The river that refused to rush. Long, poetic, introspective, 4 to 5 minutes. There was a river unlike any other in the region, while every river nearby ran fast and loud, crashing over rocks, racing toward the ocean, shouting its existence into the world. This river flowed slowly, gentle, soft, unhurried. It moved at a pace that seemed almost deliberate, as if it had made peace with every stone, every bend, every moment it touched. Travelers who passed by found it strange. They would kneel beside the water, watch it glide by like a long exhale, and whisper to themselves, "Why so slow?" Other rivers mocked it from a distance. "You'll never reach the ocean at that speed. You're wasting time. You're losing life." But the slow river simply continued, steady, calm, and deeply present. Some believed the river was foolish. Others believed it was wise. But only a few ever understood its truth. Along its banks, flowers bloomed in colors the fast rivers never nourished. Animals came to drink, unafraid of being swept away. Children sat by its edge and learned patience without knowing they were learning anything at all. And those who listened carefully often said they could hear something special in its water. A soft hum, a subtle rhythm, the sound of a life lived without rushing toward the end. One summer, a young traveler arrived, exhausted from chasing too many goals, too fast, too far. His voice trembled as he spoke to the river. "I'm tired," he said. "The world moves faster than I can follow. Everyone is ahead of me. I don't know how to keep up anymore." The river did not answer with words. It simply flowed, slow, gentle, constant. The traveler dipped his hand into the cool water and felt its weightless movement. "How do you do it?" he asked softly. "How do you stay so calm when everything else is rushing?" The river seemed to shimmer in response, as if inviting him to watch more closely. He realized something. The river wasn't slow because it was weak. It wasn't slow because it lacked direction. It wasn't slow because it was behind. It was slow because it chose to be, because the life growing along its banks needed gentleness, not haste. Because some journeys become beautiful only when we stop trying to arrive too quickly. Days passed. The traveler stayed near the river, listening, breathing, letting the rhythm of the water settle his thoughts. And slowly, the noise inside him quieted. The pressure loosened. The fear of falling behind dissolved like sand in the current. One morning, as he walked along a quiet stretch of the river, he noticed something extraordinary. Far in the distance, the horizon shimmered with a vast blue glow. The ocean. The river had reached it, not by rushing, not by competing, not by forcing itself forward, but simply by never stopping. The traveler smiled, understanding at last. Moral. Speed does not define destiny. Consistency does. You will arrive where you are meant to be, not by running toward every moment, but by moving steadily, gently, and in your own rhythm.